Welcome, everyone. I'm Lauren Hawkins. Thanks for tuning in with us to Spirituality Adventures. We are so glad you're here, and we're very excited about the content we get to share with you through our blogs and podcasts. Spirituality Adventures is made possible by your support. One way you can support us is by liking, following, subscribing, or sharing any of these podcasts or blogs that you like. Another way you can support us is by going to our website, www.spiritualityadventures.com. There you can click the support tab and you can sign up for a monthly subscription or a one-time gift. We appreciate all your support. Now here's Fred.
It's Friday. It's Friday. That's our theme for today. It's First Friday, but it's also Good Friday. And as I reflect back on Good Friday, I think it's a day of darkness, right? When you think back historically, a day of darkness. So some of you maybe know my story really, really well. Too well, maybe? And some of you have never heard my story that are here. So I'm going to be sharing a little bit of my story. I want to talk a little bit about Jesus on this Friday, many centuries ago, and then kind of close us with some thoughts on that. But those of you who really only have known me recently, or maybe you just heard me the first time tonight, I grew up here in Kansas City, and my parents brought me up in church. They're here tonight, so grateful for them. And when I hit my early teen years, I got a crowd of guys that were just kind of not really into church, and they were into partying and the drugs and the rock and roll, all that kind of stuff. And I started getting high and partying when I was like 14 with my friends. And over the course of about a 2-year period of time, oops, is that me? Try not to touch my nose. Over the course of a couple of years, I became convinced that, man, if the whole world would just get high, the whole world would be a better place. And I didn't want to have anything to do with church. And so my friends started looking freakier, and my grades started going downhill, and I had really great grades before that. So we got a new youth pastor at my church, and my dad decided that if I still wanted to live in the house, then I had to go to this youth camp with the church. And I did not want to go. And so I remember I actually snuck drugs with me to church camp, and I was going to just skip out of the meetings and get high. And then I went to this thing, and I listened. And the last night of that youth camp, I ended up giving my life to Jesus. And I went back home, and I changed my life around. 2 months after that, I felt called to be a pastor. I preached my first sermon, I think, when I was 17. And I was ordained when I was 18, right here in Kansas City, Missouri. I went off to Baylor University. Does anybody know what's happening with Baylor University tomorrow? Yes. Sick 'em Bears. Now here, do you guys believe in prayer? I want you to pray for something. So first of all, Baylor, I think it's been since 1950 that they were in, like the Final Four. And then there's never been a basketball team win the NCAA tournament from Texas. So pray that it's Baylor, not Houston, and pray that Gonzaga just has a horrible day. Would you do that? Is that okay? Is that Christian? Anyway. All right, enough about Baylor. But I went there, I majored in business religion. I went on to seminary, got a Master's of Divinity. I went out to Virginia, was on staff at the church, and I moved back to Kansas City in 1990 and started Vineyard Church with just a couple of people. And my family really were some of the first people at the church. And my 3 sisters, my brother-in-laws, mom and dad. Dad greeted people at the church. I used to say, Dad, people came to the church to get a hug from my dad. I bet you knew the first 1,000 people by name. I gave you more names at one time than I did in the church. And so, and I tell you that my family's a grace-based family. And I think just the grace-based atmosphere that grew out of that. And so I've always been thankful for my family. But nonetheless, I went into a second. Have you heard me say I call myself a prodigal pastor? All right, and some people have thought, why are you saying that? Well, prodigal means extravagant, and the prodigal son was extravagant in his waste, but the father was extravagant in his love. And so it's a little play on words, right? I'm kind of the prodigal pastor. I want to be an extravagant, grace-based pastor, which I've tried to always be, but even more so now. Like, I would just be even more grace-based than ever before after all I've gone through. But I went through a second, what I would call prodigal-type experience. And so most of you have heard me share, I was an insomniac for over 25 years. I would go to sleep right away, and then I would sleep about 2 hours. I'd wake up, and it was just like a crapshoot if I ever got back to sleep again. Sometimes I'd sleep again. Sometimes I get 3 hours. Sometimes I get 4 hours. Sometimes it was just 2 hours. And I read all night long. And I didn't, after I became a pastor, I didn't have a drinking career, I didn't have a drug career. I just stayed up all night and read. I was pretty highly functional. And that went on for over 25 years. When I hit 55, which was, I just turned 63 weeks ago, all right? So when I hit 55, I got really tired of not sleeping, and it started to wear on me. And so I went to a psychiatrist for the first time in my life. He tried out a bunch of different things, but the thing that worked was Xanax. Xanax was like a magic charm for me. I took Xanax the first time, I slept 7 hours straight, and I loved it. So I stayed on it. It worked like a magic charm all through 2016. And then toward the end of 2016, early 2017, it really started declining in its effectiveness. I started going back to my old sleep patterns. I told my psychiatrist he upped the dosage on the Xanax, but even the upper doses didn't work. And then I did something really not very smart. I started liking the sleep so much that after I woke up, even after taking Xanax, I started taking shots just to try to catch a couple extra hours of sleep. And so that Xanax and alcohol combo, literally took me down the drain really, really fast. And on top of the Xanax and alcohol, on top of the insomnia, in 2016, I went through some stuff in ministry that burned me out. I didn't even want to be preaching anymore. And I'd gone through ministry burnout before because I've been in ministry for, at this point now, over 30 years. I've been preaching over 40 years at this point. This was back in 2017. So I thought I'd just pop out of it, but I didn't. And so there I was in ministry burnout. Then I'm doing Xanax and alcohol to sleep. And then I had marriage issues that had been going on for decades that really were undealt with. And then all of that together kind of exposed this weakness in myself, I guess. And I made some really poor decisions under the influence of Xanax and alcohol. And I would just say I went off the rails, I think in late 2017 and 2018. And so I remember telling my board that I was dealing with Xanax and alcohol, and as a mom, I don't want to get on all this, but I was sent to rehab and then sent to Georgia in November of 2018 for 140 days. I was sent off to rehab. Stuff happened while I was in rehab that I really didn't know what was going on, but once I figured out what happened, I didn't come out of rehab all better. In fact, when I got home, I had to hire a divorce lawyer. I didn't have a career. I was basically losing my marriage. I lost my career. I lost the community that I had built and labored over for 30 years, basically. And I really felt like I'd lost my faith. I felt like my faith was shattered. I felt lost. Like I felt literally disconnected from myself, disconnected from other people, disconnected from God. I literally felt lost. That's not a theological statement, it's just a feeling thing. And so this is where I found myself when I came back from rehab. I was so angry. I was angry at myself. I was angry at certain other people. I was angry at God. I was just angry. I was angry, so angry, and it took me into this super dark place. And I felt like an atheist. I just, like, if God's there, I just was gone. I literally felt like an atheist. If you read my journals, you would you'd just be going, oh my gosh, And so it was a dark, dark, dark place. On top of that, some of you might not know this, but while I was in rehab, I ended up on the front page of the Kansas City Star, the Sunday edition, 2 pages with my picture on the front, basically saying I was an alcoholic, a drug addict, and I've been unfaithful my life. And so the shame of that, the humiliation of that, the embarrassment of that, I come back from rehab, I was angry about all kinds of stuff, and on top of that, I felt shame like I'd never felt shame before. And by shame, I just meant I got up every morning and I was like, I didn't like myself. I hated myself. I didn't like my new story. I always wanted to finish well. I always wanted to be a good pastor my whole life. I didn't want to finish like this. And so I just felt like I didn't want to see anybody. I got up every morning and I just like, life sucks. I hate this. I've never been a big depressed person. But I felt so dark and so out of touch with myself, with God, with everything. And I can't even describe to you how dark that felt. All right? My marriage ended in July of 2019. I had to sell my house. I moved out of it, got in a new house. I mean, a rental house, not a new house, just a rental house. I didn't know what I was going to do with myself. And I remember the month after my divorce was finalized, I just kind of went off the rails again, just so lost. And then finally, September of 2019, I thought, I got to get my crap together. Like, I need to get, I was a mess. I got to get my shit together. Is really what I was thinking, right? And so, I kind of started going to an African American church because a friend of mine down there, pastor. I didn't want to go to any church in the North Main because everybody would know me. We'd grown all the churches in the entire North Main. Did you know that over 30 years? People had gone everywhere. I knew people everywhere. I knew all the pastors everywhere. I just wanted to go somewhere where nobody would know me, but I was like only 1 or 4 white people in about 1,500 black person church, so I wasn't really a big fan. No, it was wonderful people. I'd go down and get hugs. Like, I'd listen to an hour and a half of black gospel music, and I'd get about 50 hugs every time I went to church. So I really sucked when COVID came around. They still hadn't started meeting yet. And anyway, but I also got into recovery in September of 2019. And I wasn't sure I wanted to be there, but I needed a home. And I just started going to recovery meetings, and I sat in those recovery meetings over and over and over again every day. And I found new people that I love. I love the brutal honesty. I love the hunger. I love the search. I love the spirituality. I love the fact that people from all over the map and their faith and their walks, everything can come together and meet around the brokenness and talk about it and find hope, find strength and hope and healing from one another. And it was really a beautiful experience. And so I really credit some of the people in those recovery halls with my road to healing, recovery, to restored faith, to all of those kind of things. Now, it's been a bumpy road, okay? And how many of you you don't need to raise your hand, but how many of you have ever wrestled with shame when you just like really don't love yourself? How many of you have ever done some stuff where you're just ashamed of it? You don't want, you wish you could just disappear or get super small because you're so embarrassed about what you've done. That's shame. When you feel like you're not good enough, when you feel like you just want to get small and disappear, when you wake up in the morning, you really dislike yourself, you really don't love yourself. That's all shame. And I found that shame was beating me up every single day. And I just had to talk about it. And I have a really harsh inner critic. Do any of you have like a harsh inner critic? Like my inner critic can just beat the crud out of myself. Okay? I can speak really harshly to myself. This inner critic, this shame guy that just like, And so, COVID hit, and I'm trying to get my life back on track last year, and I've been in recovery for over 6 months at that point. And I'm starting to get back on my bicycle, I'm riding my bike, I'm getting some mileage in. We're actually training for the Dirty Kanza, remember last year? This is that 200-mile gravel road race that I've done in the Flint Hills, and all these guys have done it with me here. And so I was training again, and then I go on a ride. See this guy in the beard here? I was going to point you out. Like Dave and I were out on a ride up north of Smithville on a gravel road. This big old dog comes running after me. This was in May of last year. And instead of just running beside me, he cut right in front of me. And I went over my handlebars and landed right on my head. And I didn't know where I was at for an hour. And Dave can tell you I was asking questions like I didn't know where I was at. They thought I might have broken my neck. And so I thought, man, God, can't you give me a break? I'm like trying to do better. I'm trying to get my faith. I'm trying to do all, And then I'm trying to get back on and then all of a sudden it's like, blam, I broke my collarbone. I'm off the bike for 10 weeks. And I was just starting to do Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. I was learning how to record a video with my iPhone and post it to Twitter. So I tried to make the best of it, and I decided to go out and start doing hikes instead of bike rides. Because I still want to get some exercise in and get some endorphins going on and stuff. So this one day it had been raining and everything, and I was going to different trails, and I was recording it and posting it and all that stuff. And so I go to this one called Maple Woods Park. And I get there, it just rained the day before, and there was this bridge over the creek, and the bridge was out. And so they put this caution tape up and said the trails were closed. And I kind of thought, well, that's dumb. You just cut across the creek and you get on the trails. That's dumb. So I thought the trails aren't closed, So this is a metaphor for my life, right? So, and I gotta qualify this, so that you won't think I'm even a worse pastor or something. After this, I'm going to show you a little video clip here. Because I was just going to record myself and then post it on Twitter, okay? But here's the deal. One thing that most of you don't know about, but the cycling guys do, if I crash, which I happen to have crashed quite a bit over the last 16 years, 50% of the times when I crash, I'm real zen, and I just lay there and go, I wonder if I'm going to be able to move again or bike again. And then my feelings start coming back, and I'm cool. I don't say anything. I just a little chill. I'm zen. But then the other 50% of the time, have you ever seen that old movie Christmas Story, where the kid has like that profanity thing? About 50% of the time when I crash, my brain does something. It's like the lizard brain. My amygdala knows all these curse words that I don't normally say. And it's actually embarrassing. I've actually apologized to guys after I've read a few of these things. So I'm walking along with my iPhone, recording myself so I can post it on Twitter, and I'm crossing a muddy creek. And so this is what I recorded.
On the bridge, I'm just going to hike down here to the creek. avoid the bridge. Evidently they're repairing the bridge. They determined it's not super safe for people to cross. So I'm just guessing based on the deal. So here I am doing a little creek crossing. Coming up the bank. And, here we go. Oh, just hurt my knee and my shoulder. Oh, wasn't too smart, Fred. God, jeez. Ow. Oh, damn it. Walking through the spider webs now. You guys can see now I'm such an idiot. Now I'm on the trail. Oh, the footing gave way on the little landscape there. I have a bad right knee and a bad broken shoulder. So, ouch. That hurt both of them right there. But now I'm on this peaceful trail. Hey. Beautiful area.
I showed it to one of my friends. He says, "Can I show it to my wife?" It was unedited, you know. And they just laughed and laughed and laughed. They just thought it was hilarious. A few of you have seen the unedited version. But you know, at the end of it, I said, "Like, you idiot! I can't keep from hurting myself. I hurt myself emotionally. I hurt myself." And I said, "No, I hurt myself. Can I ever stop? Give me a break, God." So, shame is a big, big, dark hole. And it leads us into dark places. And it makes me think about Good Friday. So, actually, when we first started thinking about this event, I thought, I want to do it on a Friday. I want to do it on Easter Friday. Because the cross that Jesus died upon, and the day that he did that, which was a Friday, was a dark, dark day. Okay? There are 7 sayings that Jesus said from the cross, while he hung on the cross. One of them is recorded in Matthew and Mark's Gospel. And then 3 of them are recorded in Luke's Gospel, and then 3 of them are recorded in John's Gospel. I call them the 7 last sayings of Jesus while he was hanging on the cross. And the one that's recorded in Matthew and Mark's Gospel is when Jesus cries out while he's hanging on the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Now, that phrase that I'm sure many of you have heard, my God, why have you forsaken me?" is what Jesus said in prayer while he was hanging on the cross. And that is a direct quote from Psalm 22. So there's 150 Psalms in the Hebrew Bible, which is the same as the Old Testament. Okay? 150 Psalms. A third of those are what we call Psalms of Lament. That means that they are Psalms of complaint against God or questioning God, or they are Psalms about grief and sorrow and loss and darkness. So out of 150 Psalms, a third of them are Psalms of lament, complaint, questioning, doubting, and then dealing with grief and loss and darkness. So Psalms 22 is one of the darkest of all of those Psalms. And Jesus quotes that from the cross, as though he felt abandoned by the Father in his moment of suffering. And I just want to read you a couple more verses from Psalm 22. This is the psalm that Jesus quoted from. It says, my God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far away when I groan for help? Every day I call to you, my God, but you do not answer. Every night you hear my voice, but I find no relief. And then listen to the shame here. But I am a worm and not a man. I am scorned and despised by all. Everyone who sees me mocks me. They sneer and shake their heads, saying, is this the one who relies on the Lord? Then let the Lord save him. He goes on, he says, do not stay so far from me, for trouble is near, and no one else can help me. My enemies surround me like a herd of bulls. Fierce bulls of Bashan have hemmed me in. Like lions, they open their jaws against me, roaring and tearing into their prey. Listen to this. Have you ever felt this way? My life is poured out like water, and all my bones are out of joint. It's like you just liquefy or something. You just get so emotionally overwhelmed. You just can't hold it together. My heart is like wax melting within me. My strength is dried up like sun-baked day. My tongue sticks to the roof of my mouth. You have laid me in the dust and left me for dead. My enemies surround me like a pack of dogs. Evil game closes in upon me. You hear the darkness. You hear the questioning. I cried out to you. You didn't answer. So I find it fascinating that one of the things that Jesus quoted from the cross was Psalm 22. One of the darkest psalms that you can find. One of the ones that questions and challenges the very existence of God. Why am I bringing this out? Well, I think faith and doubt and questions all travel together. And our spiritual journey has ups and downs. And any person who's walked the faith journey for any period of time has gone through some doubts, has gone through some questions, has gone through some darkness. And so I guess one of the things I want to say is that doubt and questions go hand in hand with faith. They're not mutually exclusive. And so if you find yourself in a dark point with questions about your faith, or you feel like your faith is shattered, it's okay. It's okay. You're not unlike many, many people of the Bible, including Jesus. So, I'm thinking about what got me through the shame. And you wake up every morning and you feel like you don't even love yourself. What got me through the shame? And here's the thing that really made the difference for me, is grace-filled people. Grace-filled people. So think about it. When you don't love yourself, when you feel like you're just, what did it say in the song? A worm. I'm going to say, like a piece of shit, right? When you feel that way, and I'm using that word very intentionally, it's how people feel. Then, how do you get through that? You got to be able to talk about what you feel, even though you might feel ashamed and self-hatred. You got to be able to talk about that with people who what? Who love you anyway. And I think that's really the foundation for grace-based people, is they love you anyway. And they love you at your worst. And I started saying stuff and sharing stuff that I didn't even like hearing coming out of my mouth. And I just started finding people who love me anyway. So some of you are here, right? I'm thinking like my family right here. They love me anyway. They love me. can't even tell you how much that means. That, like, when I didn't even feel like anybody would ever forgive me or love me again, and I certainly didn't love myself, they kept loving me. They loved me when I was at my worst. And they showed it again and again and again. They just hung in there. People in the recovery community loved me all the way through this thing. They just loved me anyway. And I really learned fresh and new how deep grace can go for grace-filled people. I had friends who identified with the LGBTQ community who have just loved me like anyone. They have just loved me and shown me grace. And I've just been like amazed at the kind of love that people have shown me. I think about people in the cycling community. And then there's individuals like all of you. When I started putting myself out there publicly again, which was only about 6 months ago or so, right? It wasn't that long ago, last summer. And then I didn't start doing my videos about 6 months ago. People started telling me they miss me, they love me, they forgive me. You taught me grace. You taught me about a relationship to God. And it was just an overwhelming number of people who were just kind and forgiving. They were graceful people. The Plattsburgh group, I went there Monday night. They just went around the group, like about 18 of them, just shared loving, kind things. And I think there's just times when we don't believe in ourselves and we just need other people who just like hang in there with us and love us anyway, and they show us God's love, God's grace, extraordinary, extravagant grace, wherever that comes from, they show it to us. And so I've been so grateful for people like that. And if I was ever a grace-based person, I want to be that even more. I was writing a blog here just a couple of days ago, a week ago about, and somebody sent me a text. I hadn't heard from him for a long, long time. He says, if anybody ever asks me what your superpower is, I would say that it's loving on people. And I was like, the way he said it was, I wasn't sure if it meant me. And I said, you mean that's my superpower? He says, yeah, I just think you love on people. And he says, I think that's the reason why Vineyard grows, because you just loved on anybody. You had unconditional love, and you just love. And he just started naming all the kinds of people I'd love on. And I was like, I thought, well, I aspire to that. I hope that I hit that mark sometimes. But I thought about all the people that have loved me through this dark time in my life. And they're the people that have made the difference. And so many of you here, like I wish I could spend, hey, I'm wide open. I'll have coffee with you. Just call me up and we'll hang out. No, I love to talk with every one of you and just hear what's going on. I'm just so thankful you're here. And it's been people like you that have helped me forgive myself and helped me realize that God still has a plan for my life, helped me realize that my own self-doubt and shame and all that can be healed and can change. So Jesus, on this day, many centuries ago, hung on the cross. And in his darkest moment, he cried out, without question, and feeling abandoned by the Father, God, I would be forsaken me. And, as we think about the cross, obviously we're on the other side of the resurrection, right? So we go cross and then resurrection, cross and resurrection. We always think about that. But, if you think about this death and the darkness, and then this new life, this new beginning, it's really something that's hardwired into the universe. If you think about science, things die and then other things come to life. And some things die, some things live. And it's just the whole cycle of life works like that. Death and new life. Death and new life. It's like death and new life is just hardware. If you study mythology, like when I was working on another degree and PhD in the Hebrew Bible, and I studied the ancient myths of the ancient Near East, like the ones that were there way before Moses was on the planet. I studied the Sumerian myths, the Akkadian myths, and the Egyptian myths, and then on from there, the Assyrian, the Babylonians. Myths are interesting because they communicate universal truths and universal human experiences. And one of the common themes that comes into mythology again and again and again is death and new life, death and resurrection. There's story after story after story in the mythologies throughout time about this cycle and this deep, deep truth of death and resurrection. And so I think sometimes the deepest truths, modern mythology, I like to call us like the superheroes. And Batman and Superman, always, they teach us universal truths and universal human experiences. That's why people identify with these people. And so are these mythological figures. And so there's this deep, deep truth that's revealed in the way the world works. It's revealed in mythology. And it's revealed in this story of Jesus. His death and his resurrection. How, no matter how dark it gets, if you have one breath of life, I believe there's hope for new beginning and healing. A new beginning. Even out of the darkest places, new hope and new life can be birthed. And so on this day, it's Friday. Now, one of the things I want to share with you in closing is a message that I heard from a black preacher when I was growing up named S.M. Lockridge. And I used to listen to black preachers when I was growing up. I would actually memorize whole sermons and try to preach them like they did. And I never felt like I was I thought, I better just stick with who I am. But it was so fun, it was so poetic, and so rhythmic, and so powerful. I mean, the way they painted a picture with their words, and the poetry of their words just moved me. That's part of the reason why I wanted Darrison to come up and just share a spoken word with us, because of the rhythm and the flow and all of that. And I thought about this day, and one of my favorite messages that I ever heard from a black preacher was from S.M. Lockridge. And it's called, It's Friday. It's Friday. So I'm going to do my best just to share it with you, okay? This is S.M. Lockridge, and it's entitled, It's Friday. Okay? So I got to read it to you. It's Friday. Jesus is praying. Peter is sleeping. Judas is betraying. But Sunday is coming. It's Friday. Pilate is struggling. The crowd is conspiring. The council is vilifying. They don't even know that Sunday is coming. It's Friday. The disciples are running like sheep without a shepherd. Mary is crying. Peter is denying. But they don't know that Sunday is coming. It's Friday. The Romans beat my Jesus. They robed him in scarlet. They crowned him with thorns. But they don't know Sunday is coming. It's Friday. See Jesus walking to Calvary. His blood dripping. His body stumbling. and his spirit's burdened. But you see, it's only Friday. Sunday is coming. It's Friday. The world is winning. People are sinning, and evil is grinning. It's Friday. The soldiers nailed my Savior's hands to the cross. They nailed my Savior's feet to the cross. And then they raised him up next to criminals. It's Friday, but let me tell you something. Sunday is coming. It's Friday. The disciples are questioning what has happened to their king. The Pharisees are celebrating that their scheming has been achieved. But they don't know it's only Friday. Sunday is coming. It's Friday. He's hanging on the cross, feeling forsaken by his Father. Can nobody save him? Oh, it's Friday, but Sunday is coming. It's Friday. The earth trembles. The sky grows dark. My King yields his spirit. It's Friday. Hope is lost. Death is won. Sin is conquered. And Satan is just a laugh. It's Friday. Jesus is buried. A soldier stands guard. And a rock is rolled into place. But it's Friday. It's only Friday. Join me. But Sunday is coming. Sunday's coming. If any of you would like to join me, let's just say a prayer that Jesus taught. It starts our Father. You want to join in? Join in. Our Father. What are these trespasses, by the way? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Blessings to you.
Thanks again for tuning in. Remember to visit our support page at www.spiritualityadventures.com. If you like what you heard, be sure to share it and leave a comment. Thanks again. Have a great day.
Harvey Media Production.